Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate everyone joining us today. My name is Neil Chopra. I lead the strategy and solutions team for financial markets at Fireblocks. I've been with the company just over 4 years now and spent about 4 years at Ripple prior to that. So the topic on product market fit for stablecoin and payments only took about 6 years, but we are finally there. We do have payments companies starting to use on-chain stable coins at scale, which is obviously really exciting. I think if we look at the broader market and the broader landscape, really everything that I've been doing over the past couple of years has been centered around tokenization, not necessarily getting assets on chain. It was mentioned earlier, the technology is here. That really is the easy part. We do have a demo that we'll be able to show, I think it's popping up now, which is really showing within 5 minutes how you can deploy a smart contract, add all of the governance and risk compliant smart contract functions around that particular asset, and then be able to ultimately securely interact with that smart contract as well. So again, getting an asset on chain is not the difficult part. The difficult part is really understanding what is that asset, why is it moving on chain, and who is going to use that. As mentioned, stablecoins as a form of payment or value transfer, yield-bearing assets. Everybody in the world wants dollars. Everybody in the world would love to be able to have yield attached to those dollars. We're now starting to see other assets coming on chain, real estate, loyalty programs, and things of that nature. Again, the question is, what is the utility or function of that particular asset? And so at Fireblocks, what we've done after an acquisition a couple of years ago of a company called Blockfold is really incorporated all of the security and governance that we're known for around custody and expanded that to incorporate tokenization. So securing a smart contract, deploying it, and interacting with it, and all of that governance around it is really what is critical to make sure that you have a secure business that is moving on chain with the ability to interact with that through your existing interfaces and solutions that are going to your customers today. So again, you're going to see within 5 minutes a stablecoin demo here. You're actually creating the governance and the workflows associated with getting that asset on chain. What we've done and partnered with LayerZero on is this concept really of interoperability. We're going to be having a multi-chain world for the foreseeable future. Different blockchains we're seeing are going to have different utilities and different use cases. I think anything sort of EVM compatible can be shown as complex financial transactions that can be managed in a more automated fashion. If you look at blockchains like Solana and Ripple and Stellar, they are much more high throughput, volume-based retail type of blockchains. And so when we look at this from a 30,000-foot view, different assets being on different chains will ultimately result in fragmented activity, fragmented liquidity. You can't have multiple liquidity pools managed across multiple blockchains for the same assets, because as we've seen with this Bitcoin, Aave, or whatever other tokens you're trying to trade, you can't have those going against 15 different currencies. And so as we start to centralize liquidity, we need tools to be able to actually incorporate or interoperate those assets between those different blockchains. And so again, when it comes to actually getting those assets on chain, the technology is there. You then need to ask yourself, what type of asset is it? Who regulates it, and who can actually access that? And that's where you start to have some of the permissioning around whether it's a permissioned blockchain, a private blockchain, or a fully open and permissioned blockchain that has governance and rules within a whitelist or an allow list and a blacklist to actually interact with those tokens, again, governed through a secure technology layer that then allows you to get that money market fund, that equity, that bond out there in the market, in the hands or the wallets of those investors. And so don't want to focus on the technology side. We do want to focus on more of the business application for these assets, and we will be talking through how LayerZero can actually enable that interoperability across multiple blockchains. But again, going back to the demo that we see here, is it behind me? Yeah, we do have it behind me here. We're actually going through all those steps to deploy and mint and issue those particular assets. When we look at some of the stable coins that are out there today, I think we have a plethora of dollar-backed stable coins. We are starting to see other markets and other institutions in other markets issuing, whether it's Euro, Aussie, Sing Dollar, Colombian Peso, Brazilian Real stable coins. I think what we're going to start to see at truly scale for this first institutional type of use case is on-chain FX. And something I'm really excited about, living the world of corporate treasury before getting into the blockchain space, FX, fragmentation of liquidity, FX, and having multi-day settlements is a very inefficient way to manage a treasury business, and treasury applies to every company out there. And so when we talk about looking at the actual on-chain FX component, if you're, again, issuing assets across multiple blockchains, you're going to need the ability to centralize that liquidity. And so I think with that, maybe it makes sense to get up on the whiteboard here and we can talk through how that is actually getting enabled, first at the interaction of the smart contract layer to then translate all of those events to ultimately the blockchain and those markets that are going to be managing those assets.
Yep. And nice to meet everybody. I'm Luke Labonte, so I lead solutions at LayerZero Labs. So I've been at the company for about 2 years. Prior to that was at Consensus on the MetaMask team. So working actually with the institutional wallet that plugged into custodians like Fireblocks. So intimately familiar with like the asset chain pairing type of support that's really fragmented across like a bunch of providers at the time. And so kind of getting that stack, the vertical stack right, which Neil was talking through just now, and taking the second step of that is really just like horizontally scaling that across every single chain. And that's kind of where we play that part of solving the second step of interoperability of like not just the off-chain to on-chain interoperability. It's just like now taking that complete stack and going across any environment that that token issuers want to issue supply on and ultimately unify that liquidity across every single chain. So I'll get up here and kind of diagram out the specific solution and feel free to, after this, ask questions. I'm happy to whiteboard more solutions out. If you'd like to know what like USDT Zero looks like, happy to do that over there. But yeah, we'll go through the stack real quick. So what Neil was describing a lot was really kind of like, I'll kind of just bundle this into, let me see what we got going on here. So really the Fireblocks like tokenization platform, and so anything you can do. So like I'm a user, Fireblocks.
That's close enough.
That's close enough. Platform, right? And so kind of going through the entire user experience of what that demo just showed, of going through the asset issuance, kind of setting up all parties as far as like who are the minters, what are the role-based access control look like, what does the custodial setup look like from a multi-sig signing perspective, and then actually going ahead and minting that specific asset onto certain networks. So through that process, they can effectively select which environments that they want to deploy their contracts to, and then that upon that type of deployment, all of the supply that is minted is like natively burn mint across any of those chains. So that can be scaled infinitely across every environment. So kind of through this platform, there would be like issuance of right, some tokens, right? These you can just think these as like so bank X stablecoin, right? Bank X stablecoin. So they want to issue across 3 different chains, right? So this is like chain 1, this would be chain 2, and then chain 3, right? And then this can be any amount of chains that they want to do in the future or on day 1 of issuance. And so how we really unify that supply across every single chain that Neil was describing is really a much needed, kind of a deal breaker type of feature that's needed for any type of value transfer that exists today. in the market. So what we do at LayerZero is we have an external contract that lives separate from the token. And so upon kind of setting up what that token looks like in the Fireblocks platform, you have these contracts that are assigned a minter and burner role to call mint and burn functions on the token itself. And all of these are wired in a peer-to-peer setting, so they can go in any direction. And in this sense, it's like if you want to add new chains, it's the same setup, whether it's an EVM, whether it's non-EVM, it really doesn't matter. It's the same exact type of contract topology. And so what these contracts are doing is they're owned by the token owner, and they're effectively, when someone wants to bridge asset or bridge a number of tokens, this contract gets invoked to call a burn function. So I'm going to burn, say I'm going to burn 1 million tokens, and then it's going to be send a message. So this is like, I'll just do LayerZero, just so we can delineate between the two. And so what happens here is this burns on some source chain A, and then a message gets sent to the destination of where they want to move that specific supply, and then another call gets invoked on the receiver contract to mint that same amount of supply, right? So I want to mint 1 million. And so what happens here is like the total amount of supply never actually changes, so there's no change to net new, what is circulating, what is not. It's effectively just moving supply from one environment to another without having to have liquidity pools, without having to set up different asset pairing to get people to provide liquidity and to do this, right? Like, and this can be invoked at the contract level, all for the price of gas. So whether it's $1, whether it's $100 billion, it would cost the same on any public network. And so it's very capital efficient to move any type of value across any type of chain in this way. And so we really believe that this is kind of the future and where kind of finality-based transfer across environments is heading, is really like this, what we call is the omni-chain fungible token standard, this burn and mint model that allows tokens to move to any chain for the price of gas.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to this as well, for anyone sort of new to this space, this may seem complex and a little overwhelming, but I think this is exactly what LayerZero, Fireblocks, and other infrastructure providers in the industry are doing, is really abstracting away this complexity and making it simple for you to interact with the blockchain ecosystem, with blockchain technology, so that you can really focus on enabling end user products and services and driving your business versus having to understand the complexity of sort of the multiple layers below all of this. And so it's really exciting to be working with the LayerZero team on enabling this functionality natively for any asset that's issued through the Fireblocks platform. And really what we do, and I think what you guys do as well, is really future-proofing our technology stack, working with a lot of the innovators in this space so that they are ready for when those second movers and the mass adoption does actually come. And all of this has now been proven, tested out, validated, and ready to scale. So really exciting time, I think, in the world of tokenization and inflection point in the market for all of us, and want to make sure that we can get these tools in the hands of the actual builders and developers who can bring this to market at scale.
Yeah, I think that's it. So solving interoperability at two pieces, from off-chain to on-chain, and then on-chain to on-chain. So happy to take any questions, or yeah, either here, you can catch us by the whiteboard. Happy to take it however you guys want.
Oh, got a question over here. Look at that.
Excuse me?
Bridges or oracles?
Bridges or oracles. So with the OT model is like the messaging is built into the token itself, so that in this case, these contracts are effectively the bridging layer where the token is being invoked by this. And so there's no actual oracles needed to oracle sense from like bringing off-chain data on-chain, because this is just an attestation, or what's needed is just attesting to this burn event. So like this burn event has been finalized on source chain, number of block confirmations have been passed. Once that attestation has been made, then it can be minted on the destination chain. So it's really using what we call a verifier, and those are it's a pretty flexible model. Anyone can really run them. So if I'm a stablecoin issuer, I can actually run the verification and attestation piece for my own token. So if I want ultimate veto rights against asset transfers across any chain, like I can control that versus like some third-party bridging service or any other third party that you may not want to have that authority over your token. So it's really like an attestation piece that needs to be able to sign off for the event that happens on the source chain, which is the burn event.
Thank you, guys.
We can, yeah.